The environment that we live in affects us to a very, very great extent. The environment that we're put in, the environment that we live in, all of that really affects us as people, affects our goals, our mentality. So first of all, I want you to portray a situation in your head. There's one person living in a big 10 million plus population city in the middle of the city in some like apartment on the 35th floor in a gray block building, and there's like not even a park next to them. There's a second person. They live in some sort of cabin out in the wild. They get their food, they get their sunlight, they get to see all of the nature around them. Who do you think will be happier? Who do you think will genuinely be happier? I think the person living in nature. Because even if the person living in a gray apartment on the 35th floor has money, what use is that money if it can't give him this freedom? If someone keeps working with their head down, even after earning, let's say, $10 million, then what's the point? You haven't gained your freedom. Why have the money at all? Might as well be poor. And the person in nature, maybe even if they don't have as much money, they will be affected by what nature gives them, the natural food, all of the green they see around them every day, all this good sunlight, and it will make them significantly happier than the other person because they're living in the natural environment that humans were meant to live in from the start, right? Humans weren't meant to live in a concrete jungle with 10 million other people so close to them. Imagine that. I think also that the modern world has also spread this idea of NPCs and such, right? Because when you see a tall building and with all of these apartments, thousands of people living in there, see each window, for example, light, there might as well be like robots in there. Because interacting with so many people, seeing so many people without actually knowing who they are on a daily basis actually affects our perception of people a lot. Because it condenses everyone into this sort of gray mass rather than individual people that we actually know about. That's why the term NPC is so widespread these days. And eventually these people actually do become NPCs. As we see with so many people today, they follow just one mindset, appeal to authority. Hey, authority, let's go. Or maybe they like take a step away from authority, act like, a bit of a rebel. But in reality, they're just continuing to live their slave life. So that's a lot of the evils of the modern world that it created as a result of the Industrial Revolution, as a result of people living in such large communities together. Like, that would have been just impossible back. And even like 300 years ago, you couldn't imagine like such big cities with such a condensed population in such a small area. So really, your environment does affect you a lot, does affect your mentality. These people, they have turned into like this kind of herd mindset, right? Due to their environment. Well, the people living on nature, I would argue, would actually be more individualistic. Maybe not the correct term here, because they are still probably part of some sort of village community where everyone still helps each other out. But it's still a smaller community where everyone still knows each other and knows what to do best to help the other person that would have been like that in the tribes back in the day, right? Back in the hunter-gatherer days. So from the case I just brought up of these two people, you clearly see that one is happier, one has less of a herd mindset, one keeps more kind of to themselves, right? In nature you actually get more solitude, and solitude, I might make a whole video about this, it's a really important concept, because you really think about things on your own. Active discussion with other people is good too, but to really figure things out, I think that solitude is really important. Great philosophers, I think Nietzsche, Kant, have always described, for example, long walks when you're in your own mind and thinking. That's really productive, and I actually agree with this. It's a very good concept. So as we can see, the environment affects you, and I think for a lot of people it's a choice. So really try your hardest to make the environment that you live in more natural, form a more natural community where you know more people, you know them better, and where you actually live naturally, like a natural person would. Just one last thing. Think once again of these two cases. Think the one who has more of a herd mindset, right? The city liver would be watching all of these news, reading all of these kind of like online newspapers, right? And they would be essentially taking their opinions from them. Well, when you're out and more with yourself, you take more time to think for yourself. That's why long walks are also important. It's because you develop your own ideas, you think more freely. You're more free from this kind of mentality that everyone else around you has, that has been induced essentially by these big news corporations, right? It's all of this fear mongering. I think I talked about it in one of these videos where it's like a lot of fear mongering is upon us today. So free yourself from that. Live more naturally.